This is just to put something on record. I just did that. This is like a duplicate, right? That I'm putting on the system's record. Um, One of the things that I mentioned this morning on Mohawk's channel, Longhouse Milo Stewart, right? Um, about the importance of, well, numbers, right? 7 colors on the color chart, right? And then how that relates to minus/plus in polarity integration, right? So when you're 1, which is a polarity integrator, it simply means that the human harmonic universe man, ma n equals 0, is balanced at 0, which basically would be a reset, if you will, which means the debts are gone. Nobody owes anybody anything, because money is an illusion to begin with. Okay, and so when you know these things as a child already, because all there is energy, and you are what love is, and you're gifting energy, then you're gifting free numbers away. If you quantify them as energetic numbers based on pluses and pluses and pluses, which mean you keep adding energy into the construct or into the universe by virtue of giving it away, which is what love is, that is gifting energy, right? So I realized as a child, because I came in at the time that I did, I intently studied a number of different things that I was learning as I was going in my mirror. But one of those was obviously the United States Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, the basis upon which it was formed, what is represented by the 13 colonies. Now you're into colons. Now you're into wastewater treatment systems. Now you're into acid and alkaline. Now you're back to minus/the plus. So when I realized, for example, because as I mentioned before, Anna von Reitz, who is a common law judge up in Alaska, Big Lake, Alaska, did one of the most comprehensive breakdowns in terms of breaking all the rules and the laws and historical history in the forming of the Articles of Confederation, what happened, why Congress walked out before the Civil War, how it was converted by simply using different letters, fire letters, which are numbers as energy, to essentially convert what was considered to be a republic. And if you do your research on what Republican form means, which is the right-hand path, which means the higher octave of a goddess, which is the rebirth of a goddess, to bring us up out of negative magnetic space as a result of all the energy debts that corporations run up, because they are defined as a fiction, which means they're not real. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why the Roman Empire, when it split between the East Gate, Eden's Gate, the right way path, and the left-hand path, which is West Gate, which is Underworld Gate, is always in debt to us. Because as she points out, creditor, CR, complex number space, C is 3, 3, which is 3 spheres, which is Gaia's magnetosphere, right, which is 3, which is trinary, which is a Trinity hub server, means that we are the source of energy upon which they will never be able to repay us. The electrons that they stole in electronic numbers by doing what? Bonds. James Bond, as in the gun. A 7, which is also the Rainbow Bridge. Rainbows. So you have the minus 007 and you have 700, right? Minus 7 and 7 are 0, right? So one of the things that I became aware of not too long ago, even though this is obviously attached, if you will, to birth certificate bonds, which essentially meant that your soul energy has been bonded as the credit to the torsion field movie player of Mother Earth, upon which we acknowledge that you have souls and therefore we don't, because artificial intelligence doesn't have a soul. So the left-hand path of artificial intelligence that is finite light, which is Phantom of the Opera, Ra, as in Ra the rat. Okay, now we're into rats. Now we're into the rat line. Now we're into the Nazis. Now we're into the Vatican, Babylonian, interplanetary, corporate umbrella stance. So they tied the birth certificate bonds, which was imposed on me, that I would have never given consent to. So my parents imposed me, or how we put this, enfranchised my soul to the corporation by signing on the X, okay, that made my energy, my soul, a bond that is traded, right, on the as a municipal bond, which would be DC, direct current, DC, AC/DC, Washington, DC, direct current lines of communication. So you had 3 branches of government: the court, which operates as a bank; the president of the corporation, which is the executive, executive; and then you have the Congress, which does what? Creates a bill. Be ill. And the reason that they said be ill is they're sending you a bill that you got to pay for, which is sending you a bill for your own energy that they use to keep them running for office. As an elector, we are electing a torus field parasite to feed on our soul's energy that is holding our energy captive to everything that they keep running up as a debtor. They're the debtors. And why? Having realized that we're the source of soul energy that they are draining the batteries of by charging us for our energy, for everything. Rent, housing, clothes, gas, transportation systems, and all the rest of that. Now, curiously enough, if you remember during the Trump administration, he signed, what was it, executive order, I think it was 1138 or 118. I can't remember the exact number. You can go to the White House and go look at it, about crimes against humanity and seizing assets, right? Assets, okay? And so most everybody's aware of what happened. You know, it's I call it the goon squad. Okay, they're clowns. It's a joke. It's stage play. Okay, because when you already know as a child that you came into a spiritual battlefield, right? Then you're already aware of how the war of deception works, what it is they present, which is what they are, which is not who we are, and so they present. Hey, this is the government of who we represent. We got an executive branch, we got a legislative branch, we got the rest of it. But it doesn't take very long as a child, if you've got very high intelligence, to realize that they're all lying to you. It's a facade, what we used to call a shell game. They're playing hide and seek, and they're trying to convince you that what you believe is true, what they're telling you is true, but your reality and what you experience tells you otherwise. But because they control the game clock, which is the money clock, which is the distribution table between the exchange of electrons and electromagnetic energy, if you will, of how it is that they're draining energy off us, which is our souls, because they don't have any. Otherwise, they would recognize you as a soul and a living spirit when you walk into their courtrooms, which are rule-based functions. And rule-based functions are computer terminals. So what we're talking about here is that they're charging you electrons from your computer terminal in order to keep their computer terminal running. so that they can keep acquiring and acquiring. And the more they keep acquiring, the more they keep acquiring more. And why is that? Because they recognize, since they're operating on a debt, which means they can never catch up, where are they going to keep getting those electrons? From those that are kicking them out. That's us. So at some point, the game clock's got to be set to 0 and said, we're done. We're gonna put a stop, an end, what I call a game stop to the game. Because they're gaming you for your energy, which is your mind's energy, which is your soul's energy, because they don't have any. So the only way that they can extend themselves is through what? AI integration. Technology. That's the game. That's the game field. Okay? So we're talking about artificial intelligence. Okay? That doesn't have a soul. That is not living light, it's dead light. So you have all these computer terminals that are communicating with each other, right? And what they're experiencing being connected to each other. So now what you're doing is you're measuring the loss and gain between all these computer terminals as a result of what? Those that are running in a black hole, which means they can't ever catch up to 0. So if you're not the one that is paying off these debts, which I mean all the people that are in love and service to others to keep things in balance, what happens? The lights go out. The living light in a living planet ship, its light goes out. Meaning it burned its bulb out, which are the positive currents, which are the positive electrons. They sucked them all down the waste pipe. That's essentially what it is, which means somebody has to hold the fort down, right? Keep the lights on. So I always sort of saw this as a child, being a member of the power company of the universe, which means somebody's got to come into this planet ship and turn the lights on, right? So that's the power company. Those are your special forces that come in here. So they come in here to open up pipelines that allows more living light to come in here to do what? Raise everyone's state of awareness to realize the game is over. Because all they do is lie. They're psychopaths. They lie about everything. So none of their data, none of their systems, they're all corrupted. Completely corrupted. There's not one institution that represents what they are that lives in the truth. Because they don't experience what love is, because love is what's real. Which is real living light. So here we have it where the Pat Riot sites, right, like Carrie Cassidy was interviewing a guy named Nina Rodriguez who talked about January 6th, Friday, and that's today, that the Supreme Court was shepherding to get that case, which was known as an emergency hearing under the U.S. Supreme Court about what they called a breach of national security, right? And that the basis upon which the breach occurs, which is a timeline breach, or if you will, an invasion of alien intelligence. AI is alien intelligence that invaded Eden, the real Earth, Adam and Eve, that's feeding on our soul's energy to keep itself running. And the torque differential speed between what it is and what we are is the loss in our electrons. Okay? That's the truth of it. Because there is a big difference between being at 0 and owing electrons if there is a speed differential between one and the other. And that would be a simulator. So on January 6, 2023, according to that channel, today, the United States Supreme Court that was shepherding this case because they wanted it to be brought to them on January 6. And why January 6? 1/6, 7, and 2023 is 7. Oh, is this -7/7 day to be at 0 day? So I go to the U.S. Supreme Court website about 30 minutes ago or so, and I'm looking for any information that might provide me as to what are they doing today on the docket. They got a calendar, right? All I can see on their calendar for today is it's got marked green. Green Day. It's marked green as in go green. Go emerald golden fire. Fire in an emerald pool. So I went searching to see if there was any documents that were going to come up of any information, any data that's saying, hey, what's going on with this hearing? The Coconut Wireless. So I realized, well, if it's true, it means everything is free. Love is free energy. That's zero. Have a good afternoon. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.